talk about with Gunny, those hydro lakes apparently at their lowest levels after a heat wave. Global warming. I want global warming.
Just stop right there. No negativity. Let's be positive.
And Kansas will lead.
LBP. Let's be positive.
Well, Matt, you're watching this out the corner of your TV as well. That guy has just probably cost his team a ring. How about that?
Well, I haven't seen it because I'm actually watching on my phone as I work away. I've taken the afternoon off mostly from writing the newspaper to watch the game, but I'm pottering around at home watching on my phone. So while we're on here, I've got no idea what's happening. So I've heard you update the play. This is fantastic. Yeah,
13-10 it is now to the Chiefs, and we're 2:28 to go in the third quarter. Well, in all of these things, you know, it's sport, isn't it? And quite often it's not about who plays best. It's about who makes the least mistakes. And that guy, you are going to go down in infamy if that's the case. Let's kick it, though, with these hydro lakes and the heat wave. And I was reading on the weekend that some of them are at their lowest levels ever. Is that true?
So they tell me, Martin, we've had very, very little rain. Look, we didn't have a lot of rain and snow over winter. That normally transfers to full lakes. So the lake started with a very low refill after winter. We've had hardly any rain at all for the last 3 or 4 months, very low levels. You can walk around parts of the lake some people didn't even know existed.
Is that true? So what do you see when all of a sudden there is no water there? Because I've always wondered with those man-made lakes, what's actually at the bottom of them?
It's just all rock and silt now. But
okay.
I mean, what happens is around the edges, because you got to consider, Martin, these lakes are as big as some of your Auckland suburbs, so they're enormous. You can't see the whole lake, but what you can see is a noticeable drop in landmarks along the edge of the lake.
Ah, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So the foreshore of the lake goes from being full, and in some places it's right up to the roadside. But in a situation like this year, you can walk 40 or 50 metres out into those lakes, some of them
crazy,
onto areas around the edge that you wouldn't see. And actually, when you see them empty, you realise just how much water there is. So, yeah, it's been one of those summers. I've got a little bit of green grass after a few sprinklings of rain over the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
But water restrictions are still higher, a higher fire alert than we've seen in many summers. And, again, today it's about 27, hot and dry.
Let's kick off with the sport then, Matt Gunn out of Twizel. Let's be positive. And you watch the Super Bowl halftime show. Look, we're a couple of grumpy old men in our 50s, mate. Well, I'm very soon about to turn into the 60. But, I mean, I don't know, Usher and Ludacris, I mean, it's kind of left me a bit cold.
I mean, I've never been a big Usher fan. Apparently he's got a worldwide tour coming out. And I read that he's putting this performance on for free as a way to promote his worldwide tour. That's how big this event is. I came out in a gold-spangled muscle shirt with a white Michael Jackson glove on at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this kind of thing and I think I'm living in a different world to these people. I would never, as a man of my age, wear white pants to start with.
So, I must admit, every time I see a guy wearing white pants, the first thing I think is, she must have bought those for you, mate. Because really, as a guy, do guys wear white pants, mate? What guy wears white pants? Come on. We're men. You wear white pants, you're dropping something down the front and it looks as though you've noffed on it, doesn't it? I mean, that's the whole point wearing white pants, isn't it? You're a fool. No. It's like wearing a white shirt to spaghetti night. What are you thinking, mate? What are you thinking?
No, it shouldn't be a thing at all. You know, and the whiteness of them looked like they'd come out of a hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, they were about as bleached as you could possibly get. But anyway, and then he disappeared for a moment, and then there's a group of rollerbladers came out and did a bit of a manoeuvre, and then Usher comes back looking like he's out of that 80s movie Tron, on roller skates himself. I mean, this is camper than the Auckland Mardi Gras, this halftime show.
Yes.
Not that I mind, but I mean, I just felt the Tron outfits were over the top.
How do you get to be part of the halftime crowd? That's what I want to know. So how do they sell tickets to that, where you kind of like pretend rock and roll audience dancing and because you obviously get a free ticket to the Super Bowl, so it's It's a bloody nice place to be. You get to be on the field at half time. How do you get... You must be related to somebody who works in the NFL or something, surely.
Oh, I don't think there's any way known you could go and buy one of those.
No.
I mean, from what I read in the last week or two, the average ticket price ended up around $12,000. The cheapest seat you could get was right at the back of the nosebleed section, as they call it, for $1,000 US.
Yeah.
But the market never is opened up as much to the public as you might imagine. Apparently it's near on impossible to get a ticket at all, let alone to get on the ground.
Right.
I mean, the one thing about it, Martin, is I'm not one of those stats nerds, and I don't track all the trades and all the rest of it. And the year of American football, gridiron, can pass me by until this particular event. There's the motorsport event that takes place in Bathurst, and I don't think that there's better coverage of motorsport ever. But in terms of the package they put on for this, from the commentary to the clips through the year to keeping all the dead patches filled, I think this is just one of the most tremendous efforts that goes in. Beats the Olympics, beats all the football World Cups, beats all that, hands down. Yeah. Commonwealth Games can't even compete. What they do with this thing it is about sport, but it's actually about being a part of a once-a-year event, which happens to rotate around sport.
Yeah, it's total show business.
It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how could you fault it? The commentary is perfect. The breakdown of the rules and what's happening, you know what's happening. You know what's happened. You watch a game of rugby these days and you read about it from the referees who work late, you wouldn't have a clue.
Let's start there. So this is the shortened version of Nick Berry, who was the referee with Scotland-France yesterday in the TMO.
So you're saying that the ball was initially on the foot and then it's gone and grounded in goal, so I need to change my on-field decision to a try.
Yeah, Nick, I just need definitive evidence of the ball on the ground. So I need to go back onto that angle just to see, can I clearly see the ball on the ground?
Worst thing is that everyone gets to hear this, and so did the Scottish coaches, mate. And he kind of changed his mind, and then he decided he didn't want to change his mind. What is the answer here so that rugby can start becoming a sport that gets talked about for what happens on the field as opposed to those officiating what happens on the field?
Well, you can't do what the NFL does and have it stop all the time, because the game is built to run the whole time. So I don't have an answer for how we get over this, but the only way I can imagine it happening is if we either decide to never get anything wrong and the referee is out there handing on instructions and what he hears from a group of people, watching on TV, or we decide that we can live with a few more mistakes from the referees and just let the game flow back to the bloke on the ground. No one even knows what was happening there. You could listen to that two or three times.
Exactly.
How can you be so confused in 35 seconds? So the answer is stopping and making sure you look at everything, but that's not the answer we want, because it ruins the game, where fitness comes into it and all the other aspects of continuous play, injuries, the way you rotate the bench. American football operates in a totally different place, and they're able to get these calls right because they've got so much time. No one cares. But imagine if you started an All Blacks test at midday and the coverage was booked on TV till 4:30.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is an extraordinary event. Normally, the only length of time anywhere near this that I would sit down and watch a sport is either motor racing or cricket. Almost nothing else takes this long. So, if rugby wants this, you could get all the decisions right. I'm sorry, that's been positive too, by the way.
End of the third quarter, just a quarter to go now in the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs are up 13-10 on the back of a horrendous mistake from the 49ers, and they converted, and that is what these matches are about. They are about men either rising to the occasion or shrivelling because of it. Finally, the Super Stadium in Auckland, the U-shaped Super Stadium. Terrific looking thing, spectacular. You couldn't say anything when you saw those pictures, Matt, except wow. However, then we all ask, how the hell is this ever going to get built in New Zealand?
Yeah, not only the stadium, but up to 4 hotels and all the rest of the operations that will go on around that. Obviously, they probably look to fill space with retail and all the rest of it. It's just too expensive, Martin. We're not big enough in any sense in New Zealand to be able to realistically explain away $5 or more billion to build this thing, you know. I don't know that, apart from a spectacular-looking place on the waterfront, which isn't the worst thing for a city, or wherever it eventually goes, but, you know, you've got to think about just how much money's going into it for a couple of games of rugby and what else.